Johannesburg resumed today with explosive testimony. Former Deputy Finance Minister Mcebisi Jonas said he was told by one of the Gupta brothers that if he told about a meeting where he is said to have been offered a bribe to become Finance Minister, he would be killed. He said it took a long time to come forward about the bribe because he did not have confidence in the criminal justice system. Tiso Blackstar, senior legal journalist Karyn Maughan, has been following state capture claims for a while. She joins us now. Great to have you with us via Skype. Karyn, we've heard some of these details before. What was new today?
I think the one thing that was obviously new was the allegation that you've just mentioned, that essentially a death threat was made to Mcebisi Jonas if he spoke out about this alleged meeting that he had with a Gupta brother. We've also heard him admitting that he's not entirely sure about the identity of who that Gupta brother was, that it may potentially have also been Rajesh Gupta rather than RJ Gupta, which has been a repeated allegation that is made. And we also got into kind of the minutiae of the meeting. We know the meeting took place on the version of Mcebisi Jonas in October 2015, but these allegations about the arrogance of the Gupta brother involved, the way in which he told Mcebisi Jonas that the Guptas had quote-unquote control over everyone, including the National Prosecuting Authority, the Hawks, and state security or the intelligence community. Also these revelations that, in fact, the Hawks, when the claims of Mcebisi Jonas came out, and two of the political parties laid criminal charges over those claims, that in fact there was a concerted effort by the investigator involved, who is still currently with the Hawks, to actually, on the version of Mcebisi Jonas, kill those that criminal investigation tied to those particular allegations.
All right, so it's scandalous, and here's where he speaks about the Gupta family. You were talking about that arrogance that he said was on display. Here he talks about the Gupta family being in charge of the whole country.
Then he kind of went further. You must understand that we are in control of everything. We're in control of NPA, we're in control of the Hawks, we're in control of National Intelligence Agency. So we're in full control, and the old man will do everything that we tell him to do.
So Karyn, it's just staggering.
I mean, I don't think we've heard this level of evidence before about the whole state capture issue, but the fact that they were now saying that they essentially had control of then President Jacob Zuma. And I think what's more disconcerting for a number of people is the fact that after, it was a matter of months within this meeting in October 2015, that we saw the shock removal of Nhlanhla Nene, then Finance Minister, to be replaced for a mere 4 days, as it was, by Des van Rooyen, who we know we've also heard the evidence in the Gupta leaks, a number of other revelations contained within the state capture report compiled by Chuli Madonsela. But Des van Rooyen then has these advisors that are, very much Gupta aligned. And there's evidence that, this particular Gupta brother who spoke to him said, we will give you advisors, you will do what we want, essentially, and you will not be, as Nene was, someone who does not work with us. So we hear these kind of staggering revelations that very much suggest that the Gupta family was saying that they had control over then President Jacob Zuma, and certainly then subsequent to that, suggesting that there may in fact have been some level of truth to their claims.
All right, so you spoke about the little bit of confusion about which Gupta brother he thought he was talking to. Let's just listen to Mcebisi Jonas on that.
We had not spoken for a very long time when one of the Gupta brothers walked into the room and sat down. I had not previously met any of the Gupta brothers, but I recognized him as one of the Gupta brothers from media reports. At the time, I did not know his name, as he did not introduce himself, but simply started talking. I have subsequently looked at press articles which depict the various Gupta brothers. Based on these photographs, I'm relatively certain that the Gupta brother at the meeting was Ajay Gupta. But I cannot exclude, based simply on the photograph, the possibility that it might have been Mr. Rajesh Gupta.
What do you think about that, Karyn?
That comment has implications, I think, no doubt, for the criminal prosecution on this issue of, the potential corruption charges against a Gupta family member over the Jonas claims. Now, we know that Duduzane Zuma, for example, has been charged with corruption. He is currently appearing in the Specialized Commercial Crimes Court in connection with these revelations that he, in fact, was a definitive role player in this attempt to bribe Mcebisi Jonas, this offer of 600 million rand for him to do the bidding of the Gupta family. But it is quite important that there are now question marks hanging over which Gupta brother that was, whether it was Rajesh, whether it was RJ. We know that RJ has gone under oath in the Pretoria High Court matter that involved then Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan's efforts to get an order that he was not to get involved in the bank dispute between the Gupta family and the banks. We know that he has said that under oath that he has never, quote unquote, spoken a word to Mcebisi Jonas, and very much denied that there was any such meeting of that nature or any other meeting between them. So this information or this concession by Mcebisi Jonas that he is not 100% certain as to the identity of the brother that he spoke to is very much significant. And I think if there is an application by the Gupta family to seek to cross-examine him, which we don't know that there will be, that will be kind of a central and pivotal part of that. And of course, we know that the Hawks and the NPA will have to look long and hard in terms of their progress, given that they asked that the case against Duduzane be postponed so that they could bring potential extradition proceedings to bring a Gupta family member to face charges. Who that Gupta family member may be now, I think, is a matter for potential dispute.
All right, listen in with us. Karyn, let's listen to the testimony where, shockingly, Jonas said that his life was threatened.
Mr. Gupta said he wished to continue the meeting with Mr. Zuma, and another car would take me to the airport. At the end of the meeting, Mr. Gupta repeated that they had information on me, and if I suggested that the meeting had occurred, they would kill me.
So it's interesting, like you say, we haven't heard much about this death threat before.
No, we haven't. I mean, I think, this is new evidence, and it very much suggests, kind of a quite violent and scary dimension to this entire conversation. It's not just that that there was the carrot or this offer of all this money on the version of Mcebisi Jonas to do the bidding of the Gupta family. There was also this allegation that they had control over state functionaries, including the NPA, the Hawks, police bodies that were meant to protect and serve the South African citizenry. And then, of course, within earshot of Duduzane Zuma, the president's son, and Fana Hlongwane, a controversial character within the arms deal, also the suggestion that he would be killed. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of statements we see from the Gupta family in the wake of those kind of revelations, which very much suggests that they were, not just offering these kind of exercising, these massive alleged levels of control over senior members of government, but also that they resorted to threats of violence, as well.
All right, so let's move to the whole rationale. Well, the speculation that the epitome, the end goal, state capture was actually culminating in the nuclear deal, the big fish. Let's hear Jonas's words.
A number of these events appear to have been linked to the capture of various state institutions by the Gupta family. Simultaneously, the pressure on us from the former president and other members of cabinet to approve the nuclear deal was immense and was ultimately the trigger of Mr. Nene's dismissal on the 9th December 2015, after he again refused to back the deal at a cabinet meeting on that day.
So Karyn, this again raises the question marks around Jacob Zuma's own strong championing of the nuclear deal.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think what was so interesting was that at the end of today's hearing, we saw the Deputy Chief Justice really pushing Mcebisi Jonas on his evidence that Treasury had felt massive levels of opposition from certain people within cabinet, not least of all was President Jacob Zuma, and that a key part of the kind of opposition that they were facing was around this issue of the nuclear deal. And I think that, you know, there is going to be potentially further evidence laid on this, and the fact that Mcebisi Jonas has come out in his position as former Deputy Finance Minister and made those specific allegations about particularly the former president's push for that nuclear deal, $1 trillion deal that, you know, it has been reiterated again and again, he felt the country could simply not afford, I think is pivotal. And I think what will be interesting to see is whether former Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene is himself called in to give evidence about his removal and his awareness that, in fact, it was very much linked to the Gupta families, as well as the, just levels of dissatisfaction with these revelations that they simply could not work with him. We know that the Gupta family, for instance, had certain interests in Shiva uranium. That Duduzane Zuma had interests in Shiva uranium, of course, which is required within a nuclear context. But, what the revelations around those deals were, the involvement of the Russians, the involvement of former President Jacob Zuma, I think will be evidence that will come out in the coming months as this inquiry proceeds.
Karyn, final question. Where does this leave us? Jonas's integrity has been backed by 2 finance ministers. A lot of people have worked with him. But if those implicated keep on denying, who can back him up?
Yeah, I think that's a pivotal question. I think it's, particularly within the criminal trial context, it will be very, very important. But I think that there is a huge amount of pressure on the Gupta family to now come and take the stand in this inquiry. And the question, about if they are disputing this, they need to put their money where their mouth are and not simply cross-examine and bring an application to cross-examine him and put their version forward. But, their version, that cross-examination will not carry a lot of weight if they fail to come and testify and give their version of events. And also centrally, President Jacob Zuma himself, former President Jacob Zuma himself. The allegation is that this family member, whoever he was, came forward and essentially said that the president was under the family's control. We saw the shock removal of Nhlanhla Nene in very strange circumstances. We saw the former president claiming this was because Nene would take a position at the BRICS Bank, which never emerged. We saw that, that there have been major question marks over Nene's removal for quite some time. So really the pressure is now on the former president and the Guptas themselves to give their side of the story. And I think more centrally for the former president to come out and really explain what drove him to remove a very respected, very stable, very very capable finance minister, replace him with someone who, was in over his head, who the president himself removed after 4 days, and exactly what the circumstances were that drove those particular decisions.
So we wait with bated breath. Thank you very much for your time. That was legal journalist at Tiso Blackstar, Karyn Maughan.